Hello everyone, welcome back. So in this session in our Appium series, today we are going to see how we can run the Appium server from programmatically. So far we have seen how we can run that from the command line. So it means that before executing your test cases or the Android or iOS test cases, so we used to go to the terminal and we used to say Appium. Now what this does, so this runs the Appium server. Okay, but not every time we can just manually run this, right? Let's say that if you are running your test cases in a nightly build by using any kind of CI/CD pipeline like Jenkins, you can't just run this like just before to the running into manually by using the terminal, right? Because it might be running into a different server or into the some AWS infrastructure or something. So we need to automate this process as well. So how do we do that? So there is an option that the Appium provides where you can really execute this Appium command programmatically. So we'll see that how we can fit that into our current test cases. Okay, so at this moment I will just do a Control-C so that my Appium will not be running onto the terminal or manually. Now let's try jump into the IntelliJ code editor, and here what I'm going to do, I'll just create a new class and let's give a name as Appium server. Okay, some name I'm giving that. And here I will be using one Appium default class that is called as Appium driver local service. Okay, so here I will be assigning a static variable and the type will be Appium. You can see Appium local service. Okay, and then I'll just give some variable. So what am I doing? I am keeping a separate class file, and here I will be starting the Appium server whenever it is required, and also I will be creating another method to stop the Appium server. Okay, so that I can utilize this particular utility method start and stop anywhere throughout my framework. So that is what we are going to do. Okay, fine. Now the first thing I need to create is a start method. So for this I will be creating a public method, and let's make it a static as well, and I won't be returning anything and just say start. Okay, now inside this I will be writing the logic to start the Appium server. Okay, so for this I will be creating a server as well, a builder actually. Now this builder will have all the Appium components that is required to run the Appium command, and for this I will be using another class from the Appium itself, and that is called as Appium service builder. Okay, and I'm just giving some name equal to, I'm just creating an object of that, and then by using this builder I will be assigning, and you can see there are a lot of different methods that are available. We will be utilizing some of these methods for this particular Appium server, but you can see depending on your need you can utilize all these methods. Fine, so the first thing that I need is the Appium.js path. Now what is Appium.js? So when you install the Appium, right, by using the npm command which we have seen in our previous sessions, I have to give the path. So for this, and you will see there is something called as with Appium.js. So you will be using that, and I will be creating like this, and here inside this I need to provide the path of my Appium.js. Sometimes it is called as main.js as well. Okay, so for this I will be going to the spotlight and I will just search as a user, and then I will be going to the local live, and if I go inside this and under this I will be searching as node modules. Under node modules I will be going to the Appium. Okay, and after this you will see something called as build actually, and under this you will see again a lib, and here you can see all the JS path are there. So I can use the main.js here. Okay, now let's get this path actually. So now if I put an option, I will click on the option path, option keyboard, and right click it, and you can see copy main.js edge path name. So this is actually on Mac. Okay, and let me put it inside a new file, and here I will be keeping this one like this. Okay, and let's import this java.io package. And then I will be using another method, and that is called as using driver executable. So here using driver executable, and here I will be providing the path of the node actually. So we have installed the node, right? So the node executable path I will be using here. Now under this I will be specifying the path, and the path would be again under user local and then bin and then here node. Even you can get it from terminal as well. Like if you go to the terminal here and you say where node, and you see that the same path you will be getting. Okay, so this is what I'm specifying here. Fine. Now the next thing is that using port. So here you can use any free port, but then the Appium always uses the port, the default port, that is 4723. So I will be using that only. And then dot, I will be using local time zone. So there is some with argument actually. Now here you can specify any of the arguments. Now there are certain flags are there. If you put it as like I will tell you that general server flag, and if you put as dot, you will see a lot of different options are there. So there is something called as local time zone. So it will just give you the logs with the local time zone. Okay, and the same thing, like let's say that Appium gives a lot of logs, right? You can even specify the path of that particular log. So you can say that with the log file, and you specify some path actually. So I will be specifying the same thing, new file, and I will be keeping it into my the same root project only, and I will say dot text. Okay, and also you can specify the IP address as well, like the local host or like the server where you want to really run. At this moment I want to run the Appium server on my local, so I can just specify with IP address. You can see there is a IP address and it has to be my local actually. So I'm just giving my local host path actually. Here I can specify like this. Okay, so there is one thing to note. So you can even specify with argument. I'll tell you what I'm specifying here. So here general server arguments here. So general server flag dot base path. You can see there is a base path comma, and you need to specify this actually. Now when you need to specify this, if you are using the Java client version less than 8.x, at this moment I'm using the latest version of the Java client. Now latest version of the Java client doesn't include the WD hub here as a new URL. That's why I'm not specifying this one explicitly here. But if you're using less than 8, let's say Java client 7 or 7 point any of the versions of the 7 or below to that, you need to specify this line actually. Okay, Java client 8 and above doesn't include this WD hub. So that is one thing to note. So I'm done with this one. Now I will be just putting a semicolon to end the builder patterns. Okay, whatever I'm specifying this builder pattern methods. Fine. Now once I'm done with my builder components, what I'm going to do, I will be starting this server actually. How will you start it? So here I will be using the same class Appium driver local service dot, I will say build service. Okay, and I will be utilizing the builder actually, whatever the components that I have added there. Now this actually returns something, and that is called Appium driver local service. What is that? The variable is server, right? So I will be just assigning that. Okay, now my server variable is now allocated with these components. Now simply I will just say server dot start. You can see this method. Now what this does, this is basically replacing this particular thing what I am specifying here, Appium. And if you see here, it also takes by default actually this one. It doesn't include your what you call the WD hub. So this 2. X, right? The Appium version 2.x is specifically compatible with your Java client 8.x. That's why I said when you are using the combination of version 2.x and 8, you shouldn't be specifying this line. If anything below to that version if you are using, then you have to explicitly specify this one. Fine. Okay, and now let's utilize some of the server methods to make sure that if it is running and also get the URL of that particular server. So for this I will be just creating a out, and here I will just say that server dot get URL. The same thing I will use another server method, that is server dot is running method. So now this will give me if the server is already running or not. Okay, now let's run this. So public static void main, and then I'll say string args, and here I will use Appium server because this is like what do you call my static method. So I will just say that start. Okay, you can see this main method will call this start method. Okay, now let's run this. And you can see that it is running, and the URL it gives as localhost colon 4723 as I've specified there, and also it returns me the boolean value as true because it is now running the Appium server. Now let's say that if I want to rerun it again, let's see what happens. Okay, so sometimes it shouldn't be what you call running it because the same port will be reutilizing it. It should say that this server is already running and we cannot utilize the same what you call port. Let's do it again and see. Okay, here you can see that it says that the requested port may be already in use actually. So because I have run already the same port, so it's saying that we cannot rerun by using the same port. So at that moment what we can do, we can manually kill this one. So normally this is not recommended actually, but why I have shown this one, let's say that you have 5 different test cases are there. Each test case at the beginning it starts the server and also it stops the server. So I will even show you guys how to stop this. Now if you use the same server variable or the object, and if you do this, and you can see there is something called as a stop also. So this basically stops the server, like you are opening into the terminal and you do Control-C, right, to quit the Appium server. The same way you can stop it. Fine. Now let's say that there are 5 test cases you are running, and at the beginning of the test case start you say that Appium start, and towards end of this test case you will say stop. Okay, let's say before test and after test. Sometimes what happens, let's say that your test case fails in the between, and then probably this particular stop method never works actually. At that moment how will you do that? So there is a way actually you can even kill it by using some command. Now because I'm using Mac operating system, I will tell you that. See, the thing is that we are, see, Appium server, it's fine, but then we can kill that particular port actually where it is this particular Appium is using, and we are using the 4723, right? Now there is a command in Mac. I will just say that ls of -i, it will give me the information of the particular port, and you see that at this moment there is no port is available. So normally I have seen that if the particular port is no longer used for certain time, it just automatically stops it. But I will just quickly run this, and then you can see that now it is running, and I will just run this, and you can see that it gives me a process ID. Okay, what I can do, there is another way to kill this particular what do you call process ID. I'll say kill -quit, and I will specify that particular process ID. So that is 2913. You can see that, and then I will just say enter. Now if I search the same post 7234, you can see that there is no process ID allocated. So this is outside of your program, you are killing that. The same thing in the Windows also, there are a lot of options are there. You can Google it and get it, or I can just put that information into the comment. But normally what happens, you need to make sure that at the beginning of the test case or before starting the test case, it should start the server. Okay, at the end of the test case or after executing the test case, even you can specify after test also whether it is success or failure or skipped. You can even run the stop by using the test engine listener. Okay, you can even use that. Or else what you can do, there is another option, we can actually use this particular is running method. So what I can do, I can write a utility method actually to just make sure that if the server is running or not. If the server is not running, then you start it. So we can tweak this particular method a bit actually. So that is what I will be showcase you guys. So what I'm going to do here in this case, I'll just change a bit actually. So instead of making this as static, I'll just remove this one, and instead of start, I will just make it as a set instance. I'll tell you what am I doing here. Okay, so okay, or else let's make it as static, but let's not make it as public. Set instance I'm making it. Now what I'm going to do, I'll create one get instance method actually here. So below to this, I'll write another method. I'll make it as static. I'll say get instance. Okay, and this get instance will be return type would be Appium driver local service. Okay, now what this holds this server. It will return this server actually. Now here what I'm specifying, if this server equal to null actually. So here if this server is null, then only you start it. Okay, so here I will say set instance. I'll call this set instance. What exactly this set instance does? So this will give me this server actually. So I will be just removing all these things at this moment. I'll copy paste into a separate method. Now this set instance will always return me this particular server. Okay, so that is what I'm doing here. Now after doing this, what exactly happens? The server object will be assigned with this builder components. Okay, now here what I'm going to do, I'll just say return server. Which server I'm returning? This particular global server object I'm returning in this get instance. Now I have to call somewhere, right? This get instance, where should I call it? So I can create one variable or a method, method. I'll say public static, I'll say void, I'll say start method. Now this actually will get that particular get instance and it will start it. Now here what I'm doing, get instance, here I will say get instance dot, I'll say start. Okay, now see, this start is not this start. This get instance give me this server. This server actually it is returning. Now whatever I'm writing here, server dot start, the same thing I'm doing here. The only thing that I'm doing here by making these three methods, making sure that this server never run before actually. If it didn't run before, then only get that instance actually. Get that instance means get all these things, then only I will be starting it. So that is what I'm making sure. Now in this case, instead of Appium server dot start, what I'm going to do, actually I can utilize this as it is. The only thing is that this start method will make sure that this server is not null actually. If it is null, then only it will start it. So that is what I'm making sure. Now see how I have made it as start. The same thing I can keep as stop as well here. So I'll again make public static and I'll say void, and here I'll make a stop method. Now here I will be making a reverse this one actually here. So what I'm going to do, if this server, okay, if this server is not equal to null, see unnecessary, I don't want to stop it. If this server already exists, then only you do get instance dot stop. Okay, so that is what I'm making sure here. Okay, and here let's say that I will just keep it as s out, and I will just say that Appium server stopped. I'm just making something so that it will print, and here I'm just making sure that I will print the same thing. Actually, I can copy paste these two things. Okay, now here Appium server.start. I'll just wait some time. Let's say 2 seconds I'm waiting, and then I will say Appium server dot stop. Okay, and here let me just do this. Okay, now here see, now why am I making, so in this before after stop and before stop you can actually execute your test case. So it means that if I just showcase now, see, it should not give me any kind of server in utilize or the port in use. Let me do that. So how many times I will run this particular code base, it will start and stop independently. Okay, so you can see that it started, okay, and then it stopped also. Actually I did not make it here. Actually this Appium server started actually. So this start method, if you see that, okay, I should have uncommented this one. Okay, now if I run this, you should see this get URL and all those things, and you can see that everything is coming, and here you can see it returned true, and also it should say Appium server stopped, and it gives me the URL also. Okay, now the same concept I will be utilizing in my actual test case, the Appium test case. So if you see that, if I'm now, how do we fit it inside a particular test case? That is what we are going to see. Now there are a lot of different ways. Sometimes I can start it before even opening that particular application, or else let's say that you are fitting inside a test engine, you can use the test engine listener before test and then after test. Okay, or else you can say before method and after method. So depending on your requirement, the only thing that you need to make sure that before actually running your test case, you need to start the server. After your test case is finished, then you need to stop the server. That is what you need to make sure. Now I will be doing the same thing here. Let's say that at the beginning of the test case, now because this is main method, I won't be specifying any test engine concepts here, but we will see while we are building the framework. Now what I'm going to do, I will use the Appium server. Now this Appium server is in my src main Java. Sometimes it is recommended to create a base package here and then put this particular class inside this, and you refactor it and come back here. Now this Appium server, I need to import this. Now if you see, this Appium server comes from the base package. Now here I'll say dot start. Okay, and the same thing after finishing everything, also even before, even you can after driver.quit also you can do that. So I'll just say that Appium server dot stop. Okay, I can do that. Now see, I don't need any kind of terminal dependency here. I can directly run this particular test case, which will take care of my Appium server start and stop. Now here I will be opening the simulator as well. Okay, so for this I'll go to my Android Studio. Okay, and let me open the virtual device manager. If you are using real device, just make sure that you have connected to your system, and I'm opening this. It will take some time. Okay, so my simulator is ready now, and then you can see the app is also installed already. I can just rotate it like this, and let's close all these things. So simulator is ready now, and I have the test case is also ready. We have already discussed all these things in our previous session. Okay, now let me run this test case. So I'll just run this main method, and let me open this side by side. and now it should run the Appium server, and then it should start my test case. There is some problem. Let's see what is that. Okay, probably this could be because of this. Let me just make sure that it should be 1, and let's rerun this. Okay, so that is the way actually you can deal with this. And it stopped the test case also, and you can see at the end of running the test case, it even said that Appium server stopped. Okay, and there has to be a Appium log also. You can see whatever the logs that it got, you can refer it later. Actually, if there is any issue or something, you can refer to this and identify that. So that is the way. And also iOS test case also the same thing. Before to this, you just make sure that Appium server dot start, and at the end Appium server dot stop. And this particular whatever we have created, this one, right, this is independent of your Android or iOS, because it is more specific to the Appium. Now there is one thing to note. Now this actually I have specified the path for the Mac OS, right? Let's say that you are using the Windows operating system. This particular path will be different, main.js or the appium.js. Let's say that you have installed this what you call Appium by using the npm command, which you have to install it by using the npm command, the 2.x. So the path will be under your program files, then Appium, and then you have to go to the node modules, Appium, bin, and then you should get the appium.js. And the node.js is also under your C program files, and you can see under your node path or something. So like that you can specify these two things, node and then the JS file. All these things would remain as it is only. There is no difference in that. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it about the programmatically running the Appium server. While learning about the framework design, we will be utilizing this particular class and the methods in Test Engine Listener. Okay, so hope this session is helpful. So do subscribe to this YouTube channel and stay tuned for more topics. Thank you for watching.